The lark in the morning, she rises off her nest. She goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She goes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. Roger the ploughboy, he is a dashing blade. He goes whistling and singing through yonder leafy shade. He met with dark-eyed Susan, she's handsome, I declare. She's far more enticing than the birds all in the air. The lark in the morning, she rises off her nest. She goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She goes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings. As they were coming home from the rakes of town, the meadow being all mown and the grass had been cut down. As they should chance to tumble all on the new mown hay, it's kiss me now or never, this bonny lass would say. The lark in the morning, she rises off her nest. She goes off in the air with the dew all on her breast. And like the jolly ploughboy, she whistles and she sings. She goes home in the evening with the dew all on her wings.
I'm your hostess, Blazewing, and you're listening to The Transitioning Pagan. Come join with me as I explore the world and leave gender berries behind in an effort to follow the path set before me by the goddess. Who knows where we'll end up on this journey? I hope by the end of this podcast you will have a deeper understanding of me and the path that I choose to follow. So I've got a really big shout out this episode. I actually just listened to episode 107 of The Wiggly Way. And I wanted to say thank you very much to Sparrow and Mojo for the bump. That was great. I loved it. And I actually screamed out loud at work, let out a little cheer, and everybody at work decided to look at me like I had 4 heads. So thank you very much. It made my day. And despite the pain that may have come out of your news from episode 106, I wanted to say congratulations on you two getting together. If anyone deserves each other at this point, it's you two. And congratulations. I'm actually just getting past episode 67 at the moment, so I'm slowly catching up. But I've been keeping up to date on the most recent casts as well. So congratulations to you guys. Thank you very much. It means a lot. And I can't wait to hear your next episode. I'd actually like to give a great big shout out to Corey at New World Witchery, who sat down with me earlier this week. And we had about a half an hour conversation about me starting off as a brand new podcaster and what I had planned out and where I hope to go. And I actually gained a lot of awesome information. So thank you very much, Corey. I hope you and New World Witchery are doing awesome. It was actually awesome to talk to a really established podcaster. Somebody who's been at this for a while and knows what they're doing, as I mentioned during our call. So thank you very much. It meant a lot, and I hope to do you guys justice, actually. A few of you may actually be wondering what happened to episode 0 on the Libsyn server. Well, the answer is I actually deleted it. Now, hold on a second. Before you all go, flying off the handle, all, I guess, 3 of you, I wasn't actually happy with Libsyn. So I went out and bought a server, and a domain name, actually. Libsyn will be up for 1 more month, roughly about November 20th, and then it'll either be archived or shut down. I'm not keeping the Libsyn server. I have more than enough space to host what we have. I've got like 10 gigabytes worth of space on our website, our new server and whatnot. So if you wish to continue listening to the Transitioning Pagan, you can do so at our brand spanking new address at http://paganlife.ca. paganlife.ca. Blazewing, myself, also has a brand new shiny email address as well. It's blazewing at paganlife.ca. blazewing at paganlife.ca. There are going to actually be many additions that I'm looking at doing to the website, so just keep your eyes on it. It's actually going to include stuff like forums for all of you listeners, so stay tuned. We're just getting started with the Transitioning Pagan. I'm hoping to see you there, and I'm excited for the changes that are coming. Hopefully, we can get set up and we can get something steady going, and I'm really looking forward to this project and seeing where it takes us. Now for the part of the show where I shamelessly advertise our contact information. Our website can be found at paganlife.ca. paganlife, all one word, .ca. You can also find me on Twitter at blazewing2010, blazewing 2010. You can email me at blazewing@paganlife.ca, blazewing at paganlife.ca. And we also have Facebook now. You can find us at facebook.com/transitioningpagan. That's Facebook.com/transitioningpagan. That's all one word.
each town. The walls came down, and peace ruled for a time anyway. And Rafferty was a tavern keep, till a band of rogues came and drank his wine, and they took his wife, singing, tie Rafferty down, don't let him make a sound. The winds may blow and the trees may grow, but tie Rafferty down, boys. When I looked in the eyes of a son on mine, rages like chills crawled up my spine. There's not a day goes by that I don't awake to my revenge. My boy and I, and a rusty knife, traveled a trail as cold as ice, hopes to put the fear of God in those devil's eyes, who sang tie Rafferty down, don't let him make a sound. The winds may blow and the trees may grow, but tie Rafferty down, boys. Well, hold her steady, my son. The work here is almost done, and I can't wait to see the fear on their faces. Hold her steady, my son. Some men from town said they could be found far to the south in a burned out church on holy ground. When Rafferty came to lay his blame, those sleeping demons never heard a thing, and they went up in flames, singing, tie Rafferty down, don't let him make a sound. Where the winds may blow and the trees may grow, but tie Rafferty down, boys. You can't tie Rafferty down. He burned their church house down. Now the fallen leaves from the burned out trees will never make a sound.
We have our very first email this episode. It's actually from the lovely Kathleen over at Borealis Meditation. So thank you very much for writing in. Since I'm new to this whole podcasting thing, she has given me a couple of wonderful suggestions, which I'm actually going to read for you guys here. And I'm actually really, really excited about this. It's my first email ever. I've had a couple of other podcasts that have died off and whatnot. Nobody actually bothered to communicate and let me know that they were listening. Either that or they just didn't, nobody actually heard the podcast episodes. So anyways, I'm really, really excited because this is my first official email for this podcast. And I'm going to read it here for you live on the air. It says, hey, you're off to a great start, and starting is the hardest part. You have a unique voice in the pod sphere, and I'm excited about following your journey. I also think you've started with a nice segment list. Don't try to do too much too soon. I have a file of segment ideas, so when I think of one, in it goes. Sometimes they turn out awesome, but always remember, it's okay to trash something you don't like and start over. Again, I've trashed 2 or 3 podcasts before this, so that's actually something I'm quite familiar with, but thank you for the heads up. I do appreciate it. She also goes on to say that the first rule, she would say, is to make the podcast one that I would want to listen to. And with me, it's all about the information, so that's not a problem. Passing on knowledge and new ideas is what this podcast is all about. I have a few tips and ideas. First of all, you have a great tone and it sounds good. I just have a note about your conversational style. Imagine you're sharing with a friend. For example, the recipes, I like the idea, but as a listener, I checked out when you were reading it. Maybe describe it and put in the complete recipe in the show notes. Think of this as a way, think of it this way. If someone is going to make... Sorry, my eyes are reading a little further ahead than I'm currently processing in my brain. Think of it this way. If someone is going to make it, they're going to need a physically written down copy themselves. Think about how you would describe this recipe to a friend. Come to think of it, that was the big one. Oh, and tell it like it is. I'm going to tell you about this oil. You're the boss, and we're just along for the ride, so there's no need to justify your decisions. Great job, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much, Kathleen. The email is very much appreciated. I am keeping those ideas in stock in the back of my head there. I'm trying to get more of the friendly approach. I know I sound quite radio announcer somewhat, and I'm trying to get that whole friendly approach. I'm trying to work on that and mellow out a little, and it seems to be working somewhat this episode, but not to where I'd like it, so that's something that I will be working on next episode as well, and continue to work on until I have it to a point where I feel comfortable talking, kind of like I'm sitting across from somebody and talking to them. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to Borealis Meditation yet, as I mentioned to Chris over on New World Witchery when we sat down and talked on Skype for about half an hour. I have roughly about 1,000 podcast episodes to listen to. I basically went on iTunes and found everything Pagan that I could, or I had a specific list. I found everything that they had listed for those shows and went and downloaded every episode. That includes From the Edge of the Circle, that includes Wiggly and Way, which is Brouhaha, Lakefront Pagan Voice, I believe it's called. Also Pagan Heart and Main. So I've got like 1,000 episodes to listen to, and I've got Borealis Meditation, and I've got New World Witchery to go through as well now. They've been added to the list. I'm going to be at it for quite a while, so again, I do apologize for that. I'm sure your podcast is absolutely wonderful, and I will get around to listening to it. I swear, I've just got a huge list at the moment. So once again, I'm going to wrap this up by saying thank you very much for our first ever email. You're making me kind of giddy and bouncy, so makes me really, really happy that people actually are listening. Something funny actually happened to me on the way to the studio today. Well, technically it was on my way to work before I came home because, well, my studio sits at home. But I actually had an ulterior motive for creating this podcast. Next year, there's an event called Pagan Podcast Supermoot. It's event number 4, which means it's been going for 4 years now. And I actually found out about it this year and would like to attend next year as a podcaster. So I decided that creating this podcast would give me an added bonus of showing up next year as a podcaster for all of those of you who are interested. And as I was walking to work, just outside of our house, there was a great big green dumpster. They're doing some home renos and whatnot for the condos that we live in, and installing doors and windows and whatnot. And somebody had actually placed 2 brand new travel suitcases in the dumpster. So I checked them out, and they looked fine. They're actually like probably $200 each, and they're now sitting in my room. So if I end up going to Pagan Podcast Supermoot 4 next year, or PPSM 4, I'm actually going to be using those. I'm thinking it may have been a slight blessing from the god and goddess. It's kind of cool, actually. You know, I sit down and decide to do this, and then those just kind of show up right in the middle of, where I'd see them. So I'm kind of thinking at this point it may have been a gift and a blessing that this is something that is going to happen, and this is something that's, real. Anyways, I'm ecstatic, and I've kind of been bouncy all week and trying to figure out where things are sort of falling into place and whatnot. But that's kind of my little story for this week. Yeah. I've actually come up with a name for this segment. I'm going to call it Kitchen Witchery for right now until I either find something better or somebody suggests something better. So here it is, Kitchen Witchery. Recipes from Blazewing's cookbook. The first recipe I'm going to give you is actually, we've all got those turkeys left over from Thanksgiving dinner and we don't quite know what to do with them. Well, one of my favorite things to do is to actually make a stew out of it, or a soup, or what have you. And I'm going to give you a basic recipe. Again, feel free to, modify and use these recipes as you wish. I'm offering them pretty much for your use. You're going to take the turkey carcass with the leftover meat, and you're going to place it in a crock pot or large pot and submerge completely in water. You want the water to come over the top of the turkey. Then you're going to place it on low heat, and you're going to let it sit on the heat for 24 hours. Basically what this does is it allows the meat to cook a bit more, and it allows, basically when you pull the bones out, the meat is going to fall right off the bone. Make sure you don't miss any meat or any of the good stuff. Then you're going to pull the bones out, and you're going to add thyme, basil, oregano, and salt and pepper to taste, or whatever herbs and spices that you like. These are just my choices. After that, you're going to add veggies. This includes things like red and green peppers, carrots, celery, onion, and potatoes. If you have other favorites, by all means, feel free to modify and add, or subtract and take away. It's up to you. After you've got all of your ingredients in the pot, you're going to cook on somewhere between low to medium heat for the next 4 to 6 hours, and then it should be good to serve. You basically want to give it enough time for the juices to mix with everything and to absorb and to give it sort of that turkey taste. It's actually really good, and I've never had any complaints about it, so, feel free to use it as you wish. The next recipe I've got for you is actually potato soup. And yeah, I know this is the second one in a row. I'm going to try and mix it up next episode, so I hope you guys are ready for something new. But for herbs and potato soup, this was actually given to me by a friend of mine. I'm not going to say her name on the air because I don't know if she'd prefer that or not. It's herbs potato soup. You're going to take 3 1/4 medium potatoes, peeled and diced, 3 1/4 cups of water, 1 5/8 large onion chopped, 1/3 cup and 1 tablespoon of butter cubed, 1/3 cup and 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 3/4 teaspoons of dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of dried rosemary crushed, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 2 1/3 cup and 1 tablespoon of milk. Now, you're going to place the potatoes in the water in a large saucepan and cook over medium heat until tender. Meanwhile, you're also going to saute the onion in the butter until the onions are tender. You're going to stir in the flour, salt, thyme, rosemary, and pepper, and you're going to gradually add the milk. Bring to a boil and cook and stir for about 2 minutes, roughly. Then you're going to add the potatoes and cooking liquid and heat thoroughly, and then you're going to serve it. So anyways, that was Kitchen Witchery. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to have 2 more recipes for you next episode. So I've got some news this episode. Something actually struck me as quite curious, and I thought you guys wouldn't mind if I shared it. Linda Harvey, an anti-gay activist, also founder of Mission America, says Halloween's satanic origins explains holiday's gay appeal. She's quoted as saying, "We can all see it's a huge celebration in the LGBT world, especially for gender-confused folks. This illustrates some of the problem. The core of Halloween is glittering artificially, and you can pretend to be someone you aren't for a night. You can flirt with danger, you can divine a different destiny, but it's all void of the presence or will of God. It's a seduction that says, don't be afraid, do whatever you want. There's nothing to fear. It's one of Satan's oldest tricks." She also said that costumes, quote, "disguise our very souls," end quote, and, quote, "Christians aren't supposed to be consulting fortune tellers, Ouija boards, or palm readers about our future, but all are frequently a part of the Halloween festivities. Do your kids know how risky these practices are, and that the real contact with real demons is quite possible? Satan doesn't care about our intentions. He'll take any willing participant." Now, if you're like me and looking at this from a pagan point of view, this is actually quite bloody hilarious. Basically, anything that this anti-gay activist sees as not holy is therefore spit and cursed upon and called the bane of all Christians and the work of the devil. From what I understand, and I've done a lot of research over the last few years, Halloween was actually ripped off by society, if you'll excuse me, from the Day of the Dead. It's a time of communing with the dead, of thinking about, past loved ones that have passed on, friends or family. It's a time of remembrance for us. And they took it and warped it into something that was similar, but not quite the same. I'm not fully versed on Halloween, so if somebody wants to, by all means, send in an email to blazewing@paganlife.ca and give me the full scoop on the entirety of Halloween, by all means, I will read it on the air, and you will be featured in next episode. But from what I get is it was originally taken from the Day of the Dead, which is a time of remembrance for us. Linda Harvey's also gone out and warn parents against allowing their children to visit the lesbian, gay, and bisexual, or transgender LGBT medical personnel as well. But we're not going to get into that. That's a whole different story. Focusing more on Halloween, as Samhain is coming up, and it is kind of that time of year again. The witches' New Year as well. So, just thought I'd pass that along. Something that caught my eye today as I was on my way home from work. I was surfing Twitter, and that popped up. Thanks to Ms. Witchy for linking that. I will definitely be passing along any other news-related articles you may have. Again, if you want to hear them on the podcast, please send an email to blazewing@paganlife.ca. BLAZEWING @paganlife, PAGANLIFE.ca. Being from the east coast of Canada, I like music with a little bit of spark to it. Irish, Newfoundland, Cape Breton, that sort of thing. Our music lineup starts with The Lark in the Morning, which was played at opening, and that's by Avalon Rising. Our other songs are as follows, but not in any specific order. We have Finnegan's Wake by Mark Gunn. We have The Bonny Ship the Diamond by Captain Black Jack. And we have Rafferty's Revenge by Doug Fulcans.
Oh, the diamond is a ship, me lads, for the Davis Creeper bound. The Kate is a garnished with bonny lasses round. Captain Thompson gives the order to sail the ocean wide, or the sun it never sets, my lads, nor darkness dims the sky, or it's cheer up, my lads, and your hearts never fail. Or the bonny ship, the diamond, with a hunting for the whale. All along the quay at Peterhead, the lasses stand around, with the shawls up pulled around them, and the salt tears running down. Don't you weep, my bonny wee lass, though you'll be left behind, for the rose will grow on Greenland's ice before we change our mind. For it's cheer up, lads, let your hearts never fail. For the bonny ship, the diamond, was a hunting for the whale. Here's a health to the Resolution, likewise the Eliza Swan. 3 cheers for the battler of Montrose and the diamond ship of Bain. We wear the trousers of the white and the jacket of the blue. When we get back to Peterhead, we'll have sweethearts anew. For it's cheer up, lads, and your hearts never fail. For the bonny ship, the diamond, was a hunting for the whale. It will be bright both day and night when the green lads come hame. Our ship full up with oil, my lads, and money to our name. We'll make cradle for the rock and the blankets for the tear, and every lass in Peterhead sing, hush-a-bye, my dear, for it's cheer up, my lads, as your hearts never fail. For the bonny ship, the diamond, was a hunting for the whale, for it's cheer up, my lads, that your hearts never fail. For the bonny ship, the diamond, was a hunt for the whale.
So, I figured this episode I'd actually sit down and explain just who I am. Last episode, I gave a brief introduction, and this is actually completely unscripted, so bear with me. Usually I have a little script in front of me, but I figured I'd just, fly off the wing here, so. Giving a bit of history about myself, I was actually brought up Christian. I am from the Christian circle. I was baptized United, was raised Anglican and Baptist, and then eventually switched to Salvation Army. So I've been around the circle a bit, and I was actually once termed as one of the best little Christians that the church had ever seen. I was among a group who at one point ran a witch out of town, which actually I'm rather ashamed of. I didn't even get your name. I don't know who you are, but if by some chance you are listening to this, I do apologize. That was extremely wrong of me, but I'm not making excuses. It's part of who I was at the time, but like I said, my conscience is getting to me, and I feel really bad about it. After a few years, I started actually questioning the church and trying to find answers to what I felt were essential questions for me. The church either didn't know, the leader of the church either didn't know or shot me down or kind of brushed me off and said, oh, you don't need to worry about that because it's not really going to affect you. But I felt they were kind of essential for me. So I got extremely ticked off of the church, and I've actually been angry at the church for more than a few years. I want nothing to do with that faith. I'm not saying, it doesn't work for somebody else. If it works for you, great, go for it. It's kind of not my thing. The questions I was looking at were along the lines of, sexual orientation feelings. I originally came out as bisexual before I came out as transgender. And, the church was like, oh, well, those feelings aren't right. You need to get rid of those. And if you don't, well, you're going to hell. They were a fairly fire and brimstone type church. So anyways, I ended up leaving the church and trying to strike out and find my own path. While I still have faith in deity, actually, Athena's called me into her service at this point, which is one of the main points of this podcast is to share information and get that out there. I tried to find my own path. And I guess I was more agnostic than anything else at one point. But ever since I was ever since I was a young child, I've felt the pull of, I guess you could call it magical ways and whatnot. And spell work has always fascinated me. Being able to, change things just because I will it so. It's kind of pulled me in that direction. And as of lately, within the last 2 to 3 years, I've been trying to explore that a bit more and find out just exactly where my pagan roots lie. I do classify as a pagan witch, not necessarily Wicca. I don't know if I actually class as anything close to Wicca, but I do know I am a pagan witch. It's been kind of a long road at this point. I came out in about 2005 as bisexual, and shortly after that I came out as transgender. So I'm kind of jumping around all over the place here, but I'm trying to help you paint a picture of who I am as a person. 2007, I officially started seeing somebody for my gender confusion, and in 2009, after a hellish 2 years of fighting with said person, I ended up getting my prescription for hormones, and I've been now on them since 2009. That created a period of turmoil within me. It created, emotional turmoil, which wasn't necessarily good for me, but I'm glad to say that I've mostly come through it, and I've learned to deal with my emotions now that I have them, and I've learned to incorporate them into who I am. Yeah, I'm a little more emotional than, say, the average girl on the street, but that's just because, I lacked them for so long. Unfortunately, the emotional turmoil ended up doing a few things for me. Well, it caused me to do a few things. without actual knowledge, and foolish me without, a containing circle, or container, I ended up summoning a demon, and that actually rather didn't end well. Forced a lot of people away from me, and caused me to do some things that I'm rather not proud of. And I tend to call those the Dark Ages, because I was kind of foolish and young at that point. I also let loose a few curses. It kind of forced somebody to leave the city that I was in. One of them did, and the other one forced a friend away from me, period. I'm sorry to have lost both of them, but, at that point I was dealing with a lot, and I really don't think I could have been expected to know better. I did it, the curses I did more, it was more of an instinctual thing at that point. Kind of a gut reaction, kind of more of a, like I said, a gut reaction. I am by no means proud of this, just a couple of chapters in my life that, I've actually grown and learned from them, and hope to pass knowledge of that on to others so they don't make my mistakes. Like I said, I call those the Dark Ages for a reason. The emotional turmoil and the inner struggles that I went through as a person kind of forced me to grow up and learn to deal with myself. And again, the hormones helped to do that. And trust me, growing up as a boy was not easy either. I'm sure that's the root of some of my problems, but in a Christian household, what can you do? You're afraid to tell anybody for fear of retribution for how you feel. So you kind of just do the best that you can and hope that everything turns out alright. You kind of pretend to be something that you're not for such a long time that it turns into a bit of a defense mechanism. I know my mother and I don't see eye to eye. I do love her. I know my mother and I don't see eye to eye on everything, but I'm hoping that at some point she will come around and she will be able to see me for who I am. We don't see eye to eye on either the pagan path that I'm on or the transitioning path that I'm on. So I guess I just kind of have to accept that for now and learn to deal with it. She may come around, she may not. This is just a little piece of who I am. I'm trying to help you guys understand where I'm coming from and why I'm doing this and why I have the mission of passing my knowledge on. Like I said, Athena has called me into her service. And as such, I am a very strong believer in education is key because knowledge is power. If you have the education and the information, then you can literally rule the world. The well-informed are those who, end up on top of the food chain. And Athena is only helping me with that. I seem to have she seems to have blessed me with a gift where if I need to know something, I have the means of getting that information. I can dig up anything on any topic at pretty much any time. So I'd say that's a rather big gift from the goddess, and I'm honored by it. Anyways, this has been a little blurb about me, Blazewing, and I hope you guys understand me at least a little better now. We're coming up on roughly about 9 minutes, so I think I'm going to cut this short now that I've talked your ear off and just sort of rambled on and on. Like I said, there's no script here, so now that I've just sort of rambled on and on, I think I'm going to cut this off and move on to our next segment. At this point, if I decide to put music in here, like I said, I don't have anything planned. I don't even have music picked out, so I may move on to the next segment. I may put in music. Well, that's pretty much it for episode 1. The first actual episode that I can sit down and not have to introduce who I am and try and get a feel for the podcast and what I'm all about. I want to say thank you for downloading. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, never be afraid to learn something new. Information is key because knowledge is power.
Finnegan lived in Walking Street, a gentle Irishman, mighty odd. He had a brogue both thick and sweet, and a rise in the world he carried a high. Might he see the sort of a tippler's way, with the love of the liquor Tim was born, and to help him on his way each day, he'd drop by the crate there every morning. Whack him with a dog, you'd knock your partner on the floor, you'd shake. And in the ears of truth, they tell you lots of fun and Finnegan's way. One morning Tim felt rather foul. His head felt heavy, which made him shake. He fell from the ladder and broke his skull. They carried him home, his corpse awake. Well, they rolled him up in a nice clean sheet and laid him out upon the bed with a bottle of whiskey at his feet and a barrel of porter at his head. But on you left your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. And in the air, the truth they tell you, lots of fun and things break. Now Tim's friends assembled at the wake, and the widow Finnegan called for lunch. First she brought in tea and cake, then pipes, tobacco, and brandy punch. Then Billy O'Brien began to cry. Such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Tim, oh, Rimo, why did he die? Would you hold your gun? Said Paddy McGee. What for that on you? Your partner on the floor, you can't shake. And in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things great. Then Maggie Malone took out the cry. Oh, Biddy, says she, you're wrong, I'm sure. Biddy gave her a whop up in the gob and sent her sprawling on the floor. And sword it soon engaged. It was woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage, and a rolling her ocean to me again. With an eye, you left your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. Back in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things right. Then Paddy Maloney ducked his head when a bucket of whiskey flew at him. It missed and landed on the bed. The liquor scattered all over Tim. The spirits of light gave the courtsman joy. Tim jumped like a trudging from the bed, crying away all that beach girl and boy. A ton of jets, you think I'm dead? What's that on you? Left your pockets down the floor, you're trying to shake. Back in the air, the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things. What's it on? Finnegan lived in Walking Street, a gentle Irishman, mighty odd. He had a brogue both thick and sweet, and the rise in the world he carried a high. I see the sort of a tippler's way, for the love of the liquor Tim was born, and to help him on his way each day, he'd drop by the crater every morning. Whack by the dog, you'd ask your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. And in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things great. One morning Tim felt rather foul. His head felt heavy, which made him shake. He fell from the ladder and broke his skull. They carried him home, his corpse awake. Well, they rolled him up in a nice clean sheet and laid him out upon the bed with a bottle of whiskey at his feet and a barrel of porter at his head. And you left your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. And in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things great. Now Tim's friends assembled at the wake, and the widow Finnegan called for lunch. First she brought in tea and cake, then pipes, tobacco, and brandy punch. Then Billy O'Brien began to cry. Such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Tim, oh, Rimo, why did he die? Would you hold your gun? Said Paddy McGee. What for that on you? Left your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. Back in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things great. Then Maggie Malone took out the cry. Oh, Biddy, says she, you're wrong, I'm sure. Biddy gave her a whop up in the gob and sent her sprawling on the floor. And sword it soon engaged. It was woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage, and a rolling her ocean to me again. With an eye, you left your partner on the floor, you're trying to shake. And in the ear of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things great. Then Paddy Maloney ducked his head when a bucket of whiskey flew at him. It missed and landed on the bed. The liquor scattered all over Tim. The spirits of light gave the courtsman joy. Tim jumped like a trudging from the bed, crying away all that beach girl and boy. A ton of jets, you think I'm dead? What's that on you? Left your pockets down the floor, you're trying to shake. And in the air of the truth, they tell you lots of fun and things. What's it on?